everyone, and welcome back. This is Ann P. of the Fiber, Floss, and Fiction podcast. Today is Thursday, October 24th, 2019. Hello to everyone. A welcome back to all of my returning viewers. Thank you as always for spending some time with me, and a very hearty welcome to any new folks who have found me. I know there's been several in the last week or 2 weeks, so welcome to you. I hope that you have a reason to hit the subscribe button and come back and visit often. Today we are kind of moving right into winter. Just before I pushed the start button on my tablet, the first flurries started here, and our temperature today is supposed to be going down. It's currently about 10:30 in the morning. It was about 35 when I got up. It went up to 42 and now it's headed down. We're supposed to be in the teens tonight. Hopefully not a ton of snow here, but Raton Pass, which is to the north of us, they're saying 6 to 12 inches of snow, and I can see already the wind is actually blowing the snow this way out the back deck. So I don't think we're gonna get a lunchtime walk in today. I think that's a little bit too wintry for me here before we're quite at the end of October. But other than that, things are good. Getting ready and prepped to head off to Pasadena, California in about 3 weeks to teach at Stitches SoCal. So hope to see some of you there. Let's go ahead and we'll kind of segue into the rest of the knitting stuff. And we'll talk about other Stitches events. I did mention, I believe on my last podcast, that I will be attending Stitches West in February, which is in the Bay Area, San Francisco area. It's technically San Jose, but right across the street from where the 49ers play football at that convention center. That's the big show of the year. Classes for that are up, and they just opened up Stitches Hartford, which is going to be one of the Stitches United events where they'll have knitting and quilting and sewing and just all kinds of fiber crafts, or thread and fiber crafts, I guess. I have, I believe, 3 classes booked for that. So if you are interested in taking a class with me, it's the one time I will be on the East Coast this year for teaching. So take advantage of that. The classes are always great. It's a fun time. I'm looking forward to headed back to the Northeast where I haven't not been in a while. So hopefully we'll see some of you there as well. So that's my next 3 events coming up. So let's talk briefly about what projects I'm working on. Now that the weather has turned cold, y'all, all I want to do is knit socks. And I have no time to knit socks, but I'm looking at my sock yarn stash, wishing I were. That and lots of warm woolies, like hats and mittens and gloves and like shawl type scarves and big chunky sweaters and stuff like that. Almost all of the things I knit wind up being shop samples, and therefore they go into the booth. The Chauncey sweater that I've been working on, I will probably wear in the booth when I get it done, but it is not something that I will give up easily because it is so lovely and warm. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will see that I am almost finished sleeve 1. I've gotten down to that point. I think I have about 2 inches left, and then the cuff, something like that. It's pretty close. Anyway. So again, this is a yoke patterned sweater, patterned by Isabel Kramer. I will put the Ravelry link to it below so you can check it out if you want it for yourself. I'm knitting it in my Woolly Wonka Fibers Ayrton sock. I know you guys have seen this a bunch of times. I'm not racing through it because I've got some other knitting that I'm working on more focusedly, but hoping to get this sleeve finished up in the short term and then cast on sleeve 2. Almost no finishing on these, just some weaving in of ends, and then this would be ready to wear this winter, so loving that. So that is kind of my personal knitting. And then I am still working on the Monster Epic blue beaded project, but I have made a lot of progress on it. I have done one round of decreases on this since you last saw it, but here it is currently. Lots and lots of beads. So again, I am knitting this. If you've watched my other previous podcasts, I'm working on this as a sample to go on the runway for Stitches West. It will premiere there. And I'm using a brand new yarn from the Yarn Guys called Alpaca Lin, which has a linen core and then baby alpaca. So it's very fuzzy and super soft. It's a gorgeous yarn. I'm adding size 6 crystal silver lined beads, and I will have more information on this on my website after the 1st of November. I'm going to be setting up a page over there that talks about my design inspirations. And this particular one, if you're at all familiar with the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the movie that came out several years ago, I will put a link to the image I'm going to talk about so you can find it. It's on the web in multiple different places. But Tilda Swinton plays the Snow Queen in that movie. And one of her costumes, all of her costumes in that movie are amazing. But I really, really liked the one that is like a gradient. It is pale off-white up near the neck and trails down to a big wide skirt that's, I don't know if it's black or dark gray, might even be navy, but I'm using navy for that section. So I'm beading it with a whole bunch of, sorry, I'm getting kind of washed out from the light there. Let's try it back here, better. Snowflake type patterns throughout the skirt. So this is going to be the bottom of the dress, and it is going to be a full length dress that's going to go on the runway. So here is where this is living currently. You can see it, the yarn just has beautiful drape, which is why I picked it. So there will be 4 colors of this yarn used in this dress. It'll go from this beautiful, almost blue-black into a dark gray, and then a lighter gray, and then a pale, pale silver up at the neckline. So again, I'll put the link to the inspiration for that below. And sometime in November, it might not be the 1st of November, because that's coming up very quickly, I'm going to have a page added on my website that will be an inspiration page, and it will talk about some of the backstory for any new designs that I'm doing, and give you kind of a behind the scenes look at what I'm working on and why I made some of the choices for the project that I did. I'm really excited to see this one come to fruition, but it will be a long time coming. This collection is not going to have this dress with a written pattern. I think it's beyond what most people would be interested in knitting for themselves. But the pattern collection will have a sweater that will also have the same colors of yarn in a gradient with beads at the yoke. So if you like the concept and you want to try the yarn out and you want to maybe work on a beaded project, this would be a great one to do it on. So that will be coming in time for Stitches West, which again is mid-ish February. It's like around the 20th or 21st. So that's all I have to talk about today specifically for knitting. Some changes coming to the website. Also in the next 2 months, I will have information about the 2020 club that I'll be launching. That information will be sometime between November 15th and December 1st, and then club opening slots will be available in December. We're going to do a slightly different kind of club this year. It's not going to be shawl based, although there is one shawl pattern I'm thinking of including, but it will be a little bit more a la carte, and it's going to be all about skill building, both for accessories and different stitch types as well as garments. So you'll have the opportunity to get in on that fun a little bit later. About 6 weeks, we should be ready to announce that. So look for that. Of course, I will talk about it here, probably have a separate video as well on that club and the specifics of it. Just, I know some folks like to have some face-to-face interaction, such as you can get in a video, to hear about things like that. And of course, all the normal written information will be available on the website and my Ravelry group. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about books. I only have 2 books to talk to you guys about this go round. One was a very long book, which took me a while to get through, but let's start with the short one first. It's called A Life in Hand, and the author is Hannah Hinchman. As always, I'll put Goodreads page links down below so you can find these if you're interested in it. This is a nonfiction book, and it talks about kind of things to think about when you're creating a daily journal that is themed about nature. And one of the things that I'm looking at doing in 2020 is doing a bit more journaling. I don't have an art degree, but I have a design degree. So some art is involved in that, but I didn't have a lot of like fine art classes, and I wished that I had had the opportunity to take more of those. And we live in kind of a rural area where there's, I mean, yes, I could go down to Santa Fe. That's a little over an hour drive, depending on when I went, what time of the day. And there's not a lot of resources up here, so I had been looking online for maybe some art classes that I might want to take, and I was also looking concurrently for some journaling classes, and found this one combination, which this was a class that this woman taught last year, and I think has had several other years, but maybe not quite as expanded as it was last year, called Book of Days. And the woman who is teaching it, her name is Effie Finch. I'll put a link as well to her pages down below. You can go look at her art if you're interested in this class. But at any rate, she's approaching things from an art journal kind of perspective, and she has a workbook every month where you get a daily prompt to do something in your journal that would be meaningful to you, and also fulfill the prompt. And it can be big, it can be small, it can be whatever. She has an initial kind of offering that if you want to make your own journal, you can, which is kind of fun to watch. But anyway, I had looked at her classes, and she opened signups on the 15th. And I guess I found her early October online searching. Thank you, Google. Was really interested in it and thought, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go ahead and sign up for this. For a year-long class, I thought it was a pretty reasonable price for the amount of content. She has a bunch of guest teachers and things like that. But I went over and read her blog post, and she was offering 5 class subscription slots as a giveaway for her blog readers, where you just had to write a post saying, yes, I read this, and yes, I'd be interested, kind of thing. Nothing major. She just did a random draw. So I was fully prepared that I was, not really in the running for that, and I would just sign up for it on the 15th or the 16th. And the 16th came, and she sent me an email saying I was one of the subscription winners for the year. So I now have this awesome art class to look forward to. And I wanted to do some background reading and see kind of how other people have approached the concept of sort of art journaling, sketch journaling, nature journaling. All of those things are in this little book. It's a very sweet book that is illustrated with Hannah's own pen and ink drawings. And then the last, I believe it's 10 pages, actually show images that she's created with pen and ink and watercolor, as well as incorporating her personal journaling style about what's happened in her day into those pages. And for me, that was a really great resource to have at the end to see kind of the full-blown version of how she does stuff. Her main point is everybody journals in a different way, but here are some hints. And so if you are interested in starting a journal, whether it's with or without art, whatever you define that as, then this is a great little book. It's not super long. I got it very inexpensively from Amazon as a Kindle download lots of good little tidbits in there, some helpful hints, some things to think about, the permission to let yourself have some pages in there that you absolutely hate, and not have to have things Pinterest perfect, even though she doesn't refer to them as that. I know there's so many things that you can look at out on the web that, you know, are a finished version of somebody's something, and they're so amazing and they're so detailed and in-depth and beautifully done that you think, I'm never going to be able to do anything like that. You know, like you sort of set yourself up for failure before you even start. So one of the important messages that I think that Hannah's book gives you is that, you know, it's okay that every page isn't perfect. If you love the way that you did something that was just a small sketch, then maybe that's a good piece that you could expand in another way. And I'm very excited about this class too, because while Effie Finch approaches her art journaling in a way that I'm not personally necessarily interested in, I like some of her art, but I don't think that I want to do quite as much mixed media. I like quieter kind of black and whites and smaller drawings and things that you can collage. That's my kind of thing. I think that there will be a lot of things still that it will be good to gain from the class, to just try some new stuff. I mean, maybe I love mixed media and I don't even know it. So anyway, A Life in Hand by Hannah Hinchman, available in print as well as a Kindle book. The next book I read is called The Swan Thieves, and this is by Elizabeth Kostova. I read her book, The Historian, last year. This is the thick book. It took me a while to get through. Another one from my dad. This is different than The Historian. The Historian had some magical realism and, what do I want to call it? Not exactly supernatural, but maybe kind of in that vein, had that involved in it. This is much more of just historical fiction. It's told with two timelines. One is contemporary and one is in the 1890s. The book opens up with this very interesting little vignette that's like 3 pages long that sort of sets the tale. And you read it and then you're immediately jumped into the 21st century and you have no idea why this initial story was told. So wait for it. It comes back to have a lovely closure. The main character is a psychiatrist. He is asked to consult and then eventually take over the care of this patient named Robert Oliver, who is a semi-famous artist, productive in his younger years. He has gone to the National Gallery in Washington, D.C., and has a knife out and has started to attack, where he's tackled to the ground, an oil painting called Leda and the Swan. And it's based on the Roman tale of a beautiful young woman who Zeus falls in love with, and he comes to her in the guise of a swan, and she falls in love, and he gets her pregnant, and she winds up producing 2 human children, 2 demigod children. I don't know if you can hear, the cat is crying. I think she's unhappy that there's no sun, which I have control over. Anyway, so he goes to treat this patient he's not catatonic, but he is nonverbal and refuses to talk. And he's trying to puzzle out why this guy attacked this painting. So, and he is an artist as well. He's professionally a psychiatrist, but he paints on the side. The book then jumps forward to the mid-1890s, and you get introduced to, I'm not sure that I'll say her name correct. Let's call her Beatrice, because I know that's correct. Beatrice La Clavert? Anyway, Beatrice. She is a fairly young woman who is in Paris and the outlying areas in France in the countryside. She is a young wife. She has been a painter since she was in her late teens. She's been working on all of these paintings and developing her craft. She is childless and has sort of devoted herself to her art as her children. And she is the artist who has created Leda and the Swan. That is the painting that this other artist has attacked. So the story jumps back and forth, and it also goes into some 20th century interviews where characters from Robert Oliver's life have memories about him, and he's apparently developed this fixation with a woman who he continually paints over and over and over again in portraits and in different paintings. And he works from something in his imagination and not from a model and not from a photograph. So this woman character keeps coming up in almost all of the art that he does, including while he's in the mental institution working with the psychiatrist. So the stories don't come together until the very end. It is a little bit of a slow read, about a third of the way through, but it's kind of necessary. And by the time you get to, this is about a 600-page book, I think, 550 pages. Yeah. By the time you get to about page 475, 500 in it, like, you can't turn the pages fast enough. It's that gripping to try to like figure out the rest of the mystery. And so there's some of the backstory that is unfolded through the 1890s story that comes in parallel with as this mental patient is kind of coming back to life. And you find out all of the details about why he attacked the painting and who the swans are and who the swan thieves are, because this title crops up later in the book. I really like this author's writing. I love the fact that she obviously has done a ton of history. She's research. She's researched the history. She's researched, I mean, if she's not a painter, she now understands painting from all of the backstory and research of art that's out there. She's done a ton of inclusivity about the Impressionists, the Impressionist movement, life in Paris at the turn of the century, life in the French countryside at the turn of the century, before the First World War. Like the historian, this book does feature a fair amount of travel, which I thought was fun to kind of mirror the character's path with that. Historical fiction, if you like this, I think you would like this. If you're expecting there to be like fantasy or magic or supernatural, that's not in this book at all. So completely different than the historian, but I think still a really good read. She's a great writer. Other than the fact that it was a little slowly paced in parts, I really enjoyed it. So would recommend that if you have any interest in that, or the art world. Very interesting tie-ins there too. Okay, so we're gonna move on to cross stitch now. So I've mostly been working on the same couple of pieces. The homework prompts in School of Magical Stitches have been very good to me. I've been able to utilize basically two main projects for that, but I will show you what else I've worked on because there's a couple other smaller things. I pulled this out for one of my prompts. I can't remember which one. I think it was something to do with the lady, the figure standing here. Sorry, I got distracted by my phone because it's beeping at me. So this is August Wordplay by Brenda Gervais, one of the entire series I've done. I have about 6 finished. I have about 6 more to do. Hauled this out to fulfill a prompt. It's on a 32 count linen. I'm using mostly the called for Gentle Arch threads. Not all of them because I didn't have all of them, but a lot. So I basically focused on this lady's dress. I worked a little bit on the flowers, and I've put the swans in, I think, since last time you all saw this, but bit of a ways to go, but maybe a third finished or so. These are kind of deceptive because sometimes there's a lot of color changes in the figures. The words go quickly, that they're not the issue. It's all of like these little bits and bobs throughout that take the time. So no specific goals on that. I pulled it out for like, I think it was 300 stitches, something like that. Okay, let's jump to Village of Hawk Run Hollow, which I am trying to stay very focused on. I have finished down through block 9, so this 3/4 of it is finished. It's still on the Q snap because I'm actively working on it, but I will show you where it is right now. I decided to jump over and work on block 12 because block 12 is a full coverage block. The entire background is done in 310, so there's a lot of 310. I am almost done with everything else in this block. There's a set of leaves that come out on this branch to finish, which I'm gonna try to do with the remainder of this week's homework prompts that I'm using this for. And then I do have a couple of days after this weekend. I mean, next week, I think there's still, 4 or 5 days of the week that are in October. So hopefully I can use this for some homework and keep working on it. When the end of the month comes, I'm gonna switch over to either block 10 or 11. I haven't decided which. And if I haven't finished all of that black, I'm gonna try to do one thread of 310 into the piece until I get that done. If I was just doing the leaves, this block would be done this month, no problem at all. But we'll see what comes up with homework and everything else. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do the apple orchard farm or the schoolhouse next. It's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I may tackle the farm next and see how that goes. So one thing I will note on this, because I had someone ask me what threads I was using on this, and I'm just using the DMC, and it does come with a DMC conversion, but it's also written for NPI silks, which were way more expensive than I wanted to spend on this. I don't think that the conversion is fantastic, and I've just been going with it because I have not had the brain power to place stuff out. But like, I think that the moon and the tree branch are kind of too close in color. Like right there, I think it gets lost. What's moon, what's leaf, what's tree branch. It looks okay from back here, and I'm not changing it. I just am giving you the FYI should you decide you want to do this piece and leave it with the DMC. The last 2 things I've worked on this month are both full coverage projects. The first is Which Way. Sorry for the glare. So of course I'm doing that because October, right? And we had the beautiful harvest moon this month. And yeah, who doesn't love her? Artwork is by Molly Harrison, and it is charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. So I have started on the last of the top row. This is the 3rd page plus this one column is the last bit. So this is the far corner of the piece. Stitching this 1/1 on the 25 count pre-gridded fabric. I'm happy with what I got done this month. If I'm going to show you my stitching shelf here in a minute. If I get the page finish on stitching shelf, that's my final goal for that piece for this year, and I still have time in October, I will come back and work on this. I still don't think I'll get this section finished, this last bit. It's done down to about there. I did finish this cute little bat. So I'm working on the sky, and I've got the moon to finish. But still a ways to go on this, so I'm not sure I will get that page finished this year, and I don't think this is going to come out again in 2019. So stay tuned. It may be out. I'm looking at my options, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so as promised, a stitching shelf. Working on page 7. I know from here, right? It looks done, and you're thinking, what are you working on? I am working on all of the little ninja stitches. There's a few down in here. There's a few here. There's like 2 up here, a couple in here. Most of the stitching is done. I counted it up last night, and I have like 48 stitches left to do on this page. So I'm going to get this done, and I would love to get this done this week. It's just that all of those ninja stitches and the stopping and starting to do one stitch and then switching to another color does take a while. So it may take me a couple of stitching nights, but I'm pretty sure I can get this done before the end of this week. In other notes, you know how when you're working on this full coverage stuff and you're like completely target locked because you're working on one little section over and over? This is a butterfly. This is half of a butterfly, which I didn't realize until last night when I put a bunch of the yellow in here. Who knew? Not me. But anyway, so if I can finish page 7 on that project, that will be my goal for a stitching shelf this year. That will have given me 6 pages finished and make me very happy. So plans, we'll see what comes up for homework. I really would like to get a stitching shelf finished. I'm going to get as much put into Village of Hawkrun Hollow as I can, and we'll see what else I have to pull out for various homework prompts. Y'all, since I've been talking to you for 30 minutes, our deck is, I can still see some of the wood, but we now have snow on the deck and the railing. Yeah, and it's actually coming down pretty good. We're socked in with all the clouds. Anyway, snow. I went through and looked at all of the stitch-alongs and challenge type things that I want to do for next year. I'm kind of revamping some of my thoughts on full coverage pages and how much I want to get done. Still going to concentrate on the 20 and 20. So when I initially mapped that out, I thought I would have 3 blocks to do on Village of Hawkrun Hollow, and I already know I won't have 3 blocks because for sure I'll get block 12 finished this year, so that would still only leave me 2 even if I quit working on that, and I'm planning to continue to focus on that. I would love to have it done by the end of the year or as close to that as I can. But yeah, so looking at a bunch of different things that hopefully I can get a lot of full coverage stitches in on. And one thing that I'm going to concentrate on then as well in the short term is my Laura Prindle Winter's Encounter, which is, I've shown that before. I'll bring it next time because then it'll be November. And I'll put a link to the Haid page that it lives on down below. Heaven and Earth Design, Laura Prindle Art. It is a horse outside in a winter scene with a little chickadee. One of our members in Full Coverage Fanatics is having her birthday is in November, and she's hosting a Laura Prindle design along. It can be any Laura Prindle design. And I wanted to work on Winter's Encounter, so I'm going to use that for her birthday sal as well. And then I may just keep on working on it because it will fit the bill for some of the monthly prompts in Full Coverage Fanatics as well. If you're interested in full coverage designs, please come on over and join our Facebook group, link below. Lots of monthly challenges and year-long ones already set up for 2020. And we have a weekend event coming up. I think it's the 3rd weekend in November, but that's the Big Strides weekend to work on your largest full coverage piece. So you can check that out if you're interested or interested in starting one. We love to enable. We're all about that. So that is it for me here today. Doggy dreams are happening. I'm going to take a break and grab some lunch and get this uploaded. So I will talk to you guys another week or 2. We'll see. I'm trying to kind of get my filming schedule a little bit more regulated with my husband home now. On the weekends, it's much harder to just plop myself down on a Saturday and do this. So we'll see what comes. I'm not sure if it's going to be 1 week or 2, if I'm going to try to film midweek or on weekends. He's got a lot of business travel in November, so maybe. Welcome to my world, maybe. We'll find out, you and me both. So until I talk to you all again, I hope everything is well at your end of the world. I hope you're enjoying whatever the seasonal change is bringing you. Looking forward to the holidays here and just enjoying my favorite time of the year. So until I talk to you all again, be well. Bye for now.